It's curtains for you.
Sorry, I couldn't resist the dad joke. I need curtains. I also need sound blankets to improve the quality of my already luscious voiceover recordings. So I'm going to quilt 3 panels from my collection of worn out t-shirts. The top layer will be the t-shirts patchwork together. The middle will be the extra 3-ounce batting I purchased for the lover's vest. And the back will be patchwork from large scraps of cotton I have from previous projects. I'll use an irregular patching pattern, square off the panels with blank scraps, and join the layers with decorative stitching. This is my collection of retired t-shirts. I need to thin it out. I'm not going to subject you to 20 minutes of an aging millennial whittering on about his glory days. I cut that, but the link is below for the dedicated few. We'll jump right into the process, and it starts with all the graphics cut out from the t-shirts. I'm leaving as much excess as possible because I'll be trimming them to size later. Each tee gets a sheet of fusible lining larger than the graphic, which is then ironed onto the back. This will take the stretch out of the knit fabric, making the whole patchworking process easier. I then square off the panels, and I'm taking my time here. I mark out the cut with chalk using my new right angle to make sure everything is as square as possible before cutting. And I'm using a rotary cutter here. I'm not usually a fan, but for this job it seems to be the best tool. I then waste the first sunny day of the year at the sewing machine. You can't see it here, but I'm using washi tape to mark out the size of the final curtains on the floor. This will be my guide while I'm making the panels. And after some laying out, I think I have enough graphics for 3 curtain panels. And I'll fill the gaps with this fetching green fabric. I organise the panels by size and... that's better. And have my 3 hero graphics set aside. I've chosen my neon orange thread for this project, and I'm ready to patchwork. First, I join one of the hero panels to a small panel with a straight stitch. I then realise that I'm going to need about 8mm loose at the end. I join the next panel aligned with the edge of the small panel, and you can see I'm starting to build out from the small panel like spokes of a wheel. With the third panel in place, it's time for the first tricky join. On this one, I try to do it in one run, leaving the needle in at the corner and turning the fabric to line up the 2 edges. This was bad. On the second, my big fat hand is covering the fact that I've lined up the corner I'm joining into face up behind the needle, with the new panel lined up with a healthy seam allowance. I then join on one edge, then flip the work over and sew towards the corner, drop the needle, then try to turn the work, give up, and align the work off camera for a final straight stitch. The result is better, but the process is horrible. On the third one, I figure it out, but you can't see what I'm doing at all. Okay, how's the audio? Great. So I've got the work set up here, got it lined up behind the needle. This is the part I'm patching in. This is much later in the project. We've skipped a few steps, but I'll catch you up, I promise. So I'm going to line it up. There's the salvaged edge, and I'm going to use that as my seam allowance on this join, and then I'm just eyeballing like 8mm overhang on this edge. Bring this up to the sewing machine. Line it up, get it under the foot. You can see the overhang at the back. And you can see that this is lined up with the raw edge. What I'm going to do with one hand apparently is just run a couple of stitches, and then I'm going to back stitch slowly. I'm trying to just feel for where this seam joins, right? And that should be me. I'm just going to... I should probably be doing some parenting. What's going on?
Where is King Kong?
What's next? Right, so we've got to join these 2 bits. So what we do is we fold the work over. Now these are all beautifully lined up, but I'm going to flip it. I flip the work over because I want to sew from the corner out. Trim threads, and we have a join. It's not bad. It's not terrible. For me, the next thing to do is just like finish all of these panels. So I'm going to get to work, and it's going to take me some time. And after some time, I had 3 perfect panels. Except they're all the wrong orientation. They're supposed to be portrait. Nothing to do but settle in with the unpicker. And after some more time, I had 3 imperfect panels. After many late nights with a self-imposed deadline in mind, my sewing got chaotic, loose, and downright ugly. I took it to my blanketing friend, and she said,
"Look, if people could hand stitch one of these on a bumpy old covered wagon while feeding a baby, you can suck it up and press it flat."
So, I laid out a blanket, soaked the patchwork, and pressed. And actually, 2 of them were totally fine. On the third, I had an excess that I pressed into a dart and basted into place. I can now join the blanket, and I lay out the lining that I salvaged from the Lover's Vest project, laid out the batting on top, and finally the patchwork, to cut everything to an approximate size. Once properly laid out, I liberally sprinkled with safety pins and took to the machine where I stitched in the ditch to join, then found some joy outlining the graphics to properly blanket the first curtain quilt together. I square off the blanket with a straight edge and cut to shape. I need one last patch on the right edge and chose raw edge applique for convenience. I join with a zigzag to better control the fraying of this loose weave fabric. One last trim and I can start on the binding. I trim what's left of the green down into strips. You may be better doing this as a bias cut, but I don't have enough fabric for that. I join the strips at 45 degrees to make one long strip, and watch this video to educate myself on how to do the next step properly. Leaving a decent tail at the beginning, I join the strip to the blanket, right sides together, raw edges lined up, with my needle positioned to the extreme left. At the corners, I stop, mark a line at 45 degrees, and when the needle hits the line, turn the work and sew out to the corner. Off camera, I've folded the strip back and over, and continued sewing, repeating the action for the corners until I get back to the start, and leave another tail. Off camera, I've marked a point where they overlap, trimmed the excess down, and joined the ends. Finally, I can stitch the last section down. The binding is folded around, pinned, and carefully top stitched in place. And with a huge sigh of relief, one of the curtains is finished. I just have to add the curtain tape, and this...
It's too bloody short.
is the finished item. For all its faults, and there are many, I'm actually deeply satisfied with this project. It's hard to be mad with items you've hoarded for 20 years of life that finally have a place to be, that isn't buried in the back of a cupboard. This isn't for anyone else, this is for me. And I couldn't care about the loose threads or the baggy seams. I only see a night out with my wife, a gift from a brother, a precious family holiday, and a great time with my best friends. So the observant of you will notice that only one curtain made it to the end of the video. The other two are sitting right here, ready to be basted. I will finish them. Of course I'm going to finish them. And to be honest, I'm actually looking forward to doing a sewing project off camera. Not to say that I'm sick of making YouTube videos, but I am feeling a bit burnt out with trying to make a video every 2 weeks. And I think that's the point with a project like this. Like, I'm sure you could in a weekend batter out a set of patchwork curtains, but the materials, if they are sentimental materials, deserve a little bit of time. Maybe indulge in the process a little bit, do some hand sewing, do some like detail embroidery, do the things that bring you great joy, that you'll be like, oh, I did that, I added that little extra detail. Definitely don't do it for a YouTube video, because you'll end up sewing at like 1 in the morning and making terrible choices. The thing is though, there's a whole heap of like purely blanketing based YouTube channels, and they seem to get a video out every week. So other business, puppets, how are you feeling about that? So I had a lot of fun doing that. I haven't told my friend that she has been subbed in for an owl, but I hope that she finds that adorable. That's not her voice. That's not even a vague approximation of her voice. Probably gonna do more of that stuff. I'm gonna do more like the cold open at the start. It was really fun to like flex those sort of filmmaking muscles. The core of the films will still be sewing documentation. What did I make? Otherwise, what is coming up? Well, I've got 2 on the pipe at the moment. I got some new trousers. You might have seen them in the video. Simple fit, mainly. Well, I'm thinking a cheeky wee double knee. I'll find out, but it's coming soon. And another reason why I don't really want to be sat in front of the sewing machine all the time is it's summer outside. It's like the nicest weather we've had in ages. So I'm making a pair of shorts. Obviously, they are not going to be fit. Like, it's going to be back to grey rain and 12 degrees by the time I finish them, but what are you going to do? You got to try. I really appreciate that you spent this time with me and my channel. There is a whole range of stuff of this ilk on the channel, well worth watching. Something will pop up at the end that you can click on if you haven't seen it already before. If you want to help the channel grow, the best way to do that is to share the content with a friend, subscribe, like, blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got to this far of the video, that means that you've enjoyed it, well, or that you've hate watched it, which is weird.